Dr. Elias Carr looked out the shuttle window as it slowly landed on Arca 7, a beautiful moon covered in green jungles and glowing rivers. This place was not on any travel map. It was home to a rare alien species called the Scifi, who rarely spoke with outsiders. Only scientists with special permission were allowed to come here. Elias had waited 5 years for this mission. He was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life. This was his first time working off-world, and his heart beat with both excitement and fear. As the shuttle touched down, the thick vines and bright trees of Arca 7 almost looked alive. The air shimmered with unknown energy. Waiting at the landing pad was his old friend Toma, who had arrived a year earlier. Toma wore a worn-out research jacket, his face serious but glad to see Elias. "Welcome to Arca 7, Toma said, giving him a quick handshake. "I hope you're ready. This place is not like Earth." Elias smiled. "That's the idea, isn't it?" Toma laughed, but his smile faded fast. As they walked toward the research base, he looked around carefully, as if watching for something. "In the trees. Listen," Toma said, lowering his voice. "There's something you need to know." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Something bad?" "Not bad exactly, but strange," Toma said. "You'll meet the Scifi soon. They're peaceful, quiet, very smart. But one of them, she's different." "She?" "Her name is Vire. She's a young Scifi still going through something. They call the ascension cycle." Toma looked serious now. "It's a natural part of their life. It's like a mental growth phase, but during that time they become intense." "In what way?" Elias asked. Toma stopped walking. "You'll feel it. Everyone does. She becomes focused. She chooses one person to study, to connect with, and once she picks someone, she doesn't stop. Her mind becomes stronger, like a storm. We call it the Sci-Heat." Elias blinked. "And you think she'll pick me?" "She might. She's already been asking questions about you." Toma looked him straight in the eye. "So I'm warning you now. During her cycle, never engage her too closely, and never leave your door open at night, not even once." Elias tried to laugh. "You make it sound like a ghost story." Toma didn't smile. "It's not. Trust me." They walked the rest of the way in silence. The research base was simple but clean, with silver walls and smart glass doors. Each scientist had private quarters and lab space. Elias unpacked quickly, placing photos of Earth on his desk next to a plant sample jar. He looked around the room, comfortable but quiet. That evening he met the Scifi. They walked into the main hall without a sound. Tall and elegant, they had smooth skin that shimmered like water. Their eyes glowed softly, and their voices echoed, like music. Elias had read about them, but seeing them in person was something else. Among them stood Vera. She was shorter than the others, but her glow was brighter. Her eyes locked onto Elias the moment she saw him. She didn't smile, but there was something in her expression, curiosity, maybe even amusement. She stepped forward and said in perfect English, "You are Elias Carr, the one who studies life?" Elias nodded. "Yes. And you are Vire?" "I am." She tilted her head. "Your thoughts feel open." Elias blinked. Thank you?" She stared a little too long before turning away. The other Scifi followed her, vanishing into the jungle paths outside the base. Later that night, Elias sat at his desk, writing notes on his datapad. He couldn't stop thinking about Vire. Her presence had felt strange, like she wasn't just watching him but listening to something inside his mind. He shook his head. "I'm just tired," he muttered. Yawning, he stood up and walked to the door. It had an automatic lock system like all quarters. He pressed the panel, and the door slid shut. But as he lay down, he forgot to check if it sealed completely. Outside, in the distance, he thought he heard a soft sound, like humming. The next morning, Elias woke up to find his door slightly open. His heart jumped. Had someone been in his room? He checked the room quickly. Nothing was missing, nothing was touched. He opened the security log on his tablet. Data corrupted, logs missing. Elias frowned. That wasn't normal. He called Toma over. "You left your door open?" Toma asked, his face pale. "I didn't mean to." Toma said nothing for a long time. Then, "Elias." She was probably here. Elias's skin crawled. From outside the window, a quiet voice floated through the trees. "Your mind was quiet while you slept." I listened. Elias stepped back from the glass. Vire was standing far away in the jungle, just watching. Dr. Elias. Carr didn't sleep much that night. He kept staring at the small gap in his door. It shouldn't have opened. The automatic lock was designed to be secure. He remembered pressing it. He was sure of it. And yet, in the morning, the door had been open, and the logs were gone. Most worrying of all was Vire's voice. Not loud, not angry. Just present. Calm. She had spoken from the jungle like she had always been there, watching, listening. Toma walked beside Elias in the hallway later that morning, silent and tense. "I think she came into my room," Elias said, quietly. Toma stopped. "You left it open?" "No, at least, I don't think I did." Toma shook his head slowly. "If she entered, she didn't need permission. The moment she sets her focus on someone, the old rules don't work anymore." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Old rules?" Toma looked around, then leaned closer. "The Sithari don't just study others, they bond through mental waves. Their strongest become what they call mind callers. They reach out using thought, not touch. It's part of their ascension cycle. Vire is one of them." "So what does she want from me?" Toma sighed. "She wants to see if your mind can match hers. She's searching for balance. If she finds it in you, you'll feel it." Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "I think I already do." Later that day, Elias returned to his lab. The jungle beyond the glass shimmered under the twin suns. He tried to focus on his notes about the local plants, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Vire. Why him? He had only just arrived, and yet he couldn't forget her gaze. It wasn't threatening, but it had weight, like it reached through space and pulled his attention to her. As he sat at his desk, his datapad buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. "Why do humans build doors if they wish to be seen?" No sender. No signal source. Elias stared at the message. It wasn't from the base's system. Before he could respond, his lab lights flickered. A hum moved through the walls, soft, musical. Then silence. Elias stood and walked to the window. Far in the trees, he spotted her again, still, glowing faintly, looking directly at him. That evening, he went to the common room for dinner. A few other scientists were talking in hushed voices. "Did you hear the systems flicker again?" "Someone erased the entry logs from the east wing." "It's her, the young one. She's growing stronger." Toma sat at the corner, sipping tea. Elias joined him. "She messaged me," Elias said softly. "Directly into my screen." Toma didn't look surprised. "She's tuning herself. Each day she reaches farther. When I first met her, she could barely speak in English. Now she's talking through networks." "What does she want?" Toma looked up. "She wants a door to remain open, and you left yours open. That's not a small thing to her." Elias felt a chill. "I didn't mean to, but you did, and now you're inside her storm." Back in his room that night, Elias double-checked everything. He locked the door, sealed it tight. He ran a system check. No bugs, no power drops. He sat in silence. Then, the hum returned, soft at first, like a warm vibration in the walls. Then stronger. His datapad lit up again. "You shut the door, but I am still near." He stood quickly, looking around. The air felt thick. Not dangerous, just full of voice, not out loud, but inside, whispered gently. "You study life. Do you study thought? Do you know your own?" He looked toward the window. Nothing there. He replied out loud. "Why me?" The hum stopped. Then came the answer. again inside his head. Because your mind doesn't fight. It listens. You are quiet inside. In the following days, Elias tried to go back to normal work, but everything felt changed. Vire appeared more often now, not close but always watching. Sometimes near the tree line, sometimes outside the base, just out of reach. Once she came into the lab while he was working. She said nothing, just stood beside him, watching as he worked with a plant sample. She finally spoke. "Your hands are careful. You do not break what you study." "I try not to," Elias said. She looked at him. "That is rare." Then she left. That night, Elias left the door open, not fully, just a small crack. He sat on his bed, waiting, listening. The hum returned, stronger, warmer, like a song with no words. His datapad lit up one last time. "You opened the door again." "Thank you." He didn't reply, but he didn't close it either. Days passed. Elias tried to focus on his research, but his thoughts kept returning to Vire. She didn't always speak, but she was always present, like a quiet echo following him wherever he went. Some nights, he left the door slightly open again, and every time he did, the soft hum returned. It was never loud, it didn't hurt, but it felt like something warm brushing against his thoughts. He began to dream differently. Strange symbols, lights, soft voices, and always the feeling of someone watching, not with eyes, but with a calm, curious mind. Toma noticed the change. "You've let her in," Toma said one morning, standing at Elias's doorway. "Haven't you?" Elias didn't answer right away. "She's not hurting me," Elias said at last. "She's learning, and maybe I am too." Toma stepped inside and sat down. He looked tired, like someone who had seen too much. "I thought the same," Toma said. "Last year during her small cycle, she touched my mind too. But back then she wasn't as strong. Now, she's almost fully awakened." Elias leaned forward. "What does that mean?" Toma looked out the window. "The Sitari call it the heat cycle, but it's not about temperature. It's about thought, power, connection. When they go through it, their minds grow fast, too fast. Their emotions become stronger, more intense. They can influence machines, people. Even other Sithari stay away when one of them reaches full heat." "And humans?" Elias asked. "We don't handle it well," Toma said. "Our minds aren't built for it. Some get dizzy, some get lost in dreams. Others feel nothing at first, then suddenly break down. The only way to resist the pressure is to stay grounded." Elias looked puzzled. "Grounded how?" "By knowing who you are," Toma said simply. "By keeping your thoughts calm even when hers are loud. If you lose yourself, she might pull too hard without meaning to." Elias thought back to his dreams. They didn't feel dangerous, just strange, deep. "Why is she doing this?" he asked. Toma stood. "Because she's searching. During the cycle, a Sithari needs one mind to connect with, a match, a balance. It helps them cross into full maturity. And if she's chosen you, then she believes you might be that match." That evening, Elias went for a walk outside the base. He followed a small path through the glowing forest. Flowers lit up with soft, blue light. The air felt thick with quiet energy. He heard footsteps behind him, but gentle ones. He turned and saw Vire standing there. No guards, no other Sithari. Just her. "You walk without fear," she said softly. "I have questions," Elias replied. Vire stepped closer, her eyes glowing gently, then asked. "Why me?" Elias asked. "Why focus on a human?" Vire tilted her head. "Your thoughts are quiet. They do not fight mine. Most species resist, push back, but yours listens, like water shaping around stone." Elias nodded, slowly. "Are you trying to bond with me?" "I do not bond like your people do," she said. "For us, connection is not physical. It is mind to mind. When our heat cycle begins, we search for one who can walk beside our storm without drowning. Elias took a deep breath. And if no one can? Then we burn too long, she said. We lose ourselves. Our thoughts scatter. That is why some disappear. Elias frowned. Disappear? She looked away. Into the forest. Into silence. Their minds stretch too far and never return. For the first time, Elias saw something in her eyes. Fear, not of him, not of humans, but of herself. Vera, he said gently, what do you want from me? She looked at him again, voice soft. I want you to keep your door open, not with keys, not with machines, but with thought. Later that night, Elias sat in his room thinking. He understood now. The door wasn't just a real one, it was a symbol, a message. If he kept it open, he was letting her in. Not into the room, but into his thoughts, his life. But could he handle it? The datapad lit up again, storm rising. If you stand, I will not fall. He stood, walked to the door, and opened it wide. Then he sat on his bed and waited. The hum returned, not gentle this time, stronger. Vibrating through the walls, through his chest. Lights flickered, but he didn't panic. He breathed, and in that moment, he felt her mind touch his. Not like a voice, not like a sound, but like a calm wave reaching the shore. The days that followed were different. The base hummed with an energy no one could explain. Machines sometimes flickered. Lights dimmed without warning. The computers would pause, screens freezing for seconds before returning to life. Elias noticed it first while working in his lab. A small plant sample under his microscope seemed to shimmer in and out of focus. He rubbed his eyes. Am I seeing things? He muttered. Later, he talked with Toma. Systems are acting strange, Toma said, tapping his tablet. Sensors near the jungle show unusual energy spikes. It looks like a wave moving through the air, something I've never seen before. Could it be Vera? Elias asked. Toma nodded. Yes, it must be her. The stronger she gets during the heat cycle, the more her mind sends out waves. They affect everything nearby, machines, plants, even people. Elias frowned. Is it dangerous? Not exactly, Toma said. But it's powerful and unpredictable. That night, Elias sat on the base balcony looking at the jungle. The air was thick with a soft blue glow. The humming returned. This time, louder, filling the whole area. His datapad lit up with a new message. Storm comes. You stand or fall. Elias closed his eyes and breathed deeply. The storm wasn't wind or rain. It was in the air, in his mind. It was the rising power of Vera's mental waves. He thought about what Toma had said. The Sithari mind was growing fast, stretching beyond what their species could normally handle. If Elias failed to stand firm, he might lose himself. Suddenly, the base's AI beeped loudly. All screens went dark. The emergency lights glowed red. Toma rushed outside his room, shouting, Power failure! Something is affecting the whole system! Elias grabbed his datapad, but the screen was frozen. The hum grew louder. Vera's voice came, not from the datapad, not from speakers, but inside his head. You hear me, human? You feel my storm? Elias swallowed hard but held his ground. I hear you, he said inside his mind. The humming shifted. It felt like a wave crashing over a beach, strong, overwhelming, but also strangely beautiful. The next morning, Toma was found unconscious near the main control room. His forehead was sweaty, and his eyes fluttered as if fighting a dream. Elias sat beside him, holding his hand. What happened? Elias asked one of the medics. Toma's mind was overloaded by something, she said. It's like his brain was pulled in many directions at once. He's stable now, but he might not. Recover quickly. Elias felt a heavy weight on his chest. This was worse than he thought. He returned to his quarters and locked the door. For the first time, he feared the storm. Outside, the jungle seemed alive with sound. Trees swayed even without wind. Glowing vines pulsed with light. Vire appeared, at the edge of the base, standing still. Her eyes glowed fiercely like twin stars. Elias watched her from his window. She raised her hand toward the sky. A wave of energy pulsed outward, making the air ripple. He felt it deep inside his mind, the storm growing stronger. He knew he had to face it. Elias found Vire near the jungle path the next day. She didn't smile, but her eyes held respect. "You stand despite the storm," she said softly. "I want to understand," Elias replied. "What happens if I fail?" Vire looked sad. "Then the storm breaks you. The mind is fragile. Too much power without balance shatters it." "Have others broken?" Elias asked. She nodded. "Many. They disappear into the forest or lose themselves forever. The cycle is a test. Only the strongest minds survive." Elias felt a chill. "But why me?" he asked again. "Because you do not fear the storm," Vire said. "You meet it with calm. That is rare." Elias took a deep breath. "Teach me." Vire nodded and reached out. Her hand. A soft light flowed from her palm. It was warm but strong, like a river of energy. Elias closed his eyes and let the energy enter his mind. Suddenly, he was inside a world of light and shadow. He saw flashes of memories, not his own. Feelings of joy, fear, hope, and pain. The storm was a storm of emotions and thoughts all tangled together. Elias focused. He let the emotions flow through him without trying to stop them. He felt his own mind steady, like a tree standing firm during a windstorm. When the light faded, he opened his eyes. Vire smiled faintly. "You learn quickly." That night, Elias's room was calm. The hum returned, but softer. His datapad showed one final message for the night. "The storm has passed. For now." Elias smiled. He had survived the first wave, but he knew this was only the beginning. The base was quiet, but Elias could feel the energy still humming beneath the surface. The storm had passed for now, but the memories of the last days were fresh in his mind. Toma was recovering slowly. The medic said he was stable, but Elias knew the strain of the Psi-storm had left marks deep inside his friend's mind. Elias sat beside Toma's bed, watching him breathe steadily. The old scientist's eyes fluttered open for a moment and focused on Elias. "You held strong," Toma whispered. "I was afraid you'd break." Elias smiled softly. "I'm still standing." Toma nodded weakly. "You have something rare. Human minds? They can adapt. They bend without breaking." Elias didn't say anything. He thought about how strange that sounded. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. Many others had powers far beyond them, but somehow their minds were flexible, able to resist forces that could shatter others. Later, Elias returned to his quarters. The jungle outside was quiet under the stars. His datapad lit up again, this time with a different message. "You are stronger than I expected." He smiled and typed back, "Tell me what to do next." For a moment there was no reply. Then, "Come to the meditation chamber at sunrise." Elias felt a thrill of curiosity. The next morning, just as the twin suns rose over the horizon, Elias made his way to the meditation chamber. It was a simple structure built near the jungle edge, a circular room open to the sky, filled with soft light and strange symbols on the floor. Vire was waiting. She looked calm, her eyes glowing faintly. "You have passed the first test," she said softly. "What test?" Elias asked. "The test of mind and spirit," Vire replied. "Now you will learn to walk beside my storm." She motioned for him to sit on the smooth floor. "Close your eyes," she instructed. Elias obeyed. Inside his mind, Elias felt a new kind of energy, a swirling wave of thoughts and feelings unlike anything before. Vire's voice echoed softly inside him. "You must keep your thoughts steady, like a mountain that does not shake." Elias pictured a mountain tall and strong. The storm inside him grew stronger. It pulled at his senses, mixing joy, fear, hope, and confusion. But he held on. He thought of Earth, of the people who taught him strength through kindness and patience. He thought of his family. He thought of Toma. Suddenly, the storm stopped. Elias opened his eyes. Vire smiled. "You have learned well." He smiled back. For the first time he felt a true connection, not just between species but between minds. The days that followed were busy. The research base returned to normal, but Elias's relationship with Vire changed. She visited him often, not just watching now but talking, sharing thoughts and stories. She told him about the Sithari's history, their struggles, and their hopes. Elias shared stories about Earth, humanity's dreams and challenges. One afternoon, the base commander called Elias to a meeting. The council had received reports about the HFY storm and its effects. "There is concern," the commander said. "If the storm grows stronger, it could threaten the entire base." Elias nodded. "I believe we can control it, but it requires cooperation." The commander looked serious. "We trust your judgment." Elias left the room determined. That night, he found Vire at the balcony. "I have spoken to the humans," Elias said. She looked at him, curious. "They are willing to help, to learn how to stand beside your storm." Vire's eyes softened. "That is good. The storm will come again, stronger." Elias nodded. "But humanity will be ready." In the following weeks, Elias worked with the scientists to develop ways to shield minds during the ascension cycle. Using old technology and new ideas, they built a device called the NeuroShield, a helmet that helped block the strongest mental waves. Vire tested the device herself. "It is strange," she said, "to wear a shield against the mind, but it helps." Elias smiled. "It helps us stand together." Finally, the day came when Vire's full ascension cycle began. The base prepared. Elias put on the NeuroShield and stood beside Vire. The storm rose, the lights flickered, the air pulsed, but Elias did not falter. The storm hit like a wave. He held steady. When it ended, Vire looked at Elias with deep respect. "You are the first human to stand beside me." Elias laughed softly. We both stood. The base cheered quietly. From that day on, Elias and Vire became symbols of hope, a reminder that humans, though new to the stars, could stand strong even in the face of alien storms. And in the quiet moments, Elias knew that leaving his door open had been the best choice he ever made. The days after Vire's full ascension cycle were quieter, but the air was still charged with a new energy. The base seemed alive in a way Elias hadn't noticed before. A subtle pulse in the walls, a soft glow in the jungle beyond. Elias sat in his quarters, looking out at the trees. The twin suns of Arca 7 cast long shadows over the glowing plants. The quiet comfort of the moment was a sharp contrast to the storm he had faced. A soft knock on the door broke his thoughts. He opened it to find Vire standing there. Her eyes were calm, her glow gentle. "May I come in?" she asked. "Of course," Elias said, stepping aside. She entered and looked around, studying the simple room. "It is different from your quarters before the storm," she said softly. "Yes," Elias agreed. "I feel different too, stronger, but also calmer." Vire nodded. "The storm changes us all." They sat together in silence for a moment. Then Vire spoke. "There is something I must tell you." Elias leaned forward, curious. "My people. The Sithari Council has heard of what happened here." "And?" Elias asked. "They are interested." "Impressed," Vire said. "Your strength surprised them. They want to learn more from humans." Elias smiled. "That is good news." "Yes," Vire agreed. "They have asked for future cooperation, to share knowledge and build trust." Elias felt a warm hope rising inside him. This could be the start of something new, he said. Vire looked at him, her eyes bright. Yes, a new chapter. The weeks that followed were full of meetings and preparations. The human scientists and the Sithari began working together closely. The neuroshield device was improved and shared with others. Elias found himself in the middle of it all, translator, scientist, and sometimes mediator. One afternoon, as Elias walked through the jungle paths, Virey joined him. "You have become important," she said. Elias smiled. "I never imagined this." "Neither did I," she admitted. They walked quietly, watching the glowing plants and listening to the soft sounds of the jungle. "You know," Elias said, "when you first warned me about the door, I thought it was just a superstition." Virey laughed softly. "It is more than that. Doors are symbols for safety and trust. Leaving a door open means you are ready to accept." Elias nodded. "I left my door open, and it changed everything." Virey looked at him. "Sometimes the greatest strength is in being open." That evening, a new message arrived for Elias from the Sithari Council. They invited him to join a special delegation to establish the first joint human Sithari colony on Arca 7. Elias was honored and a little nervous. He shared the news with Virey. "We will work together," she said simply. The idea of a new home, where two very different species could live and learn side by side, filled Elias with hope. On the day of departure, the base was alive with excitement. Scientists and Sithari gathered to say goodbye and good luck. Toma, now much stronger, shook Elias's hand firmly. "You've done well," Toma said. "Humanity is being seen in a new light here." Elias smiled. "We're only just beginning." As the shuttle lifted off, Elias looked down at the jungle below. The trees seemed to glow brighter than ever. Beside him, Virey sat quietly. Her hand resting lightly on his, Elias glanced at her and smiled. "The door is open," he said softly. "And it will stay open," Virey replied. Months passed at the new colony. Humans and Sithari worked side by side, planting new crops, building shelters, and sharing stories. Elias was busy with research, but always made time for Virey. Their connection deepened, not just as scientist and subject, but as friends who had faced storms together. One evening, as the twin suns set, Virey came to Elias's new quarters. She stood in the doorway, looking at him with a small smile. "I see your door is open again," she said. Elias laughed. "It's always open, for those who come in peace." Virey stepped inside. Together they looked out at the glowing jungle, knowing that this was only the beginning of a new journey, not just for them, but for all of humanity. The new colony on Arca 7 was alive with activity. Humans and Sithari worked side by side, building homes, planting fields, and sharing stories. The two species, once strangers, were now partners in a future neither could have imagined alone. Dr. Elias Carr stood at the center of the colony's main hall. He watched as children, half human, half Sithari, played beneath glowing trees. Their laughter was a sound of hope. Beside him stood Virey, her eyes shining softly in the evening light. "It is strange," Elias said quietly. "How far we have come." Virey smiled. "Yes, from a single open door to an open world." Elias thought back to his first days on Arca 7. The warning, the strange mental storms, the fear and the challenge. He had learned that sometimes the greatest strength was not in closing doors but in opening them. The colony's leaders gathered for a meeting. Human and Sithari representatives sat together, sharing ideas and plans. Elias spoke last. "We have shown that two very different species can understand each other," he said. "Not because we are the same, but because we are willing to be open." The room was silent, then filled with nods and quiet agreement. Virey stood and added, "Our minds may be different, but our hearts can beat as one." Later, as the stars appeared above the twin suns, Elias walked with Virey through the glowing forest. They came to a clearing where a small monument stood, a symbol of unity. Elias touched the smooth stone. "This is just the beginning," he said. Virey looked at him. "Yes, the door we left open will never close." Elias smiled. And that door is not just a symbol, it is a promise. Weeks passed and the colony grew stronger. Trade between humans and Sithari increased. Cultural exchanges began with festivals and storytelling. Elias helped teach human science to the Sithari, while Vire shared Sithari history and art. One day, a young human girl asked Elias a question. "Why did you leave your door open when you were warned?" Elias looked at Vire, then back at the child. "Because sometimes," he said, "to make a friend, you must risk the unknown. And to grow, you must be open to change." The colony's success caught the attention of other species in the galaxy. Messages arrived, inviting humans and Sithari to share their story. Elias realized that humanity's strength was not in weapons or power, but in openness, in listening and learning. Years later, Elias and Vera stood again at the original research base on Arca 7, the place where it all began. Elias looked at the door to his old quarters. He smiled. It was still open. He turned to Vera. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" she asked. "For showing me that sometimes the best choice is to leave your door wide open." Vera took his hand gently. "Together we stand open to the stars." And so, humanity became known across the galaxy as the species who dared to leave their doors open, welcoming friends, facing storms, and forging new paths in the endless universe. Because sometimes the greatest strength is found not behind closed doors, but in the courage to open them wide.